Welcome, traveler. Before the story begins, let me welcome you. Here, in these pages, you are not just a reader. You are a companion, a witness, and sometimes a participant in the journeys ahead. Whether you're drawn by adventure, longing for laughter, or searching for a quiet moment of wonder, I hope you find a little of what you seek. Settle in, take a deep breath. The world may be wild, but for now, you're safe here, among friends and stories. Wherever the path leads, thank you for walking it with me. Star. Prologue. A world of monsters and men. In the untamed wilds of the New World, nature reigned supreme. Verdant jungles thick with fog gave way to scorched dunes, towering mountain ridges, and frost-bitten tundras where silence was more suffocating than snow. This was not a land of peace. It was a land forged by conflict, by fang and claw, where apex predators clashed with beasts of legend. In this world, monsters were not fairy tales. They ruled the skies, stalked the forests, and slumbered in volcanic depths. Rathalos, king of the skies, patrolled with flaming talons. Diablos churned through the desert, a living storm of horned fury. Zinegray proud with electric fury, and Nergigante, the devourer of elders, was a walking apocalypse. But for all their terror, mankind did not yield. Across generations, hunters arose, warriors bound by code, blade, and courage. Their purpose was balance, not vengeance. They protected the fragile thread of life that stretched between the civilized and the wild. Villages, outposts, entire research commissions owed their survival to these chosen few. One such man was known only by his title, Rael, the Storm Hunter. Chapter 1. The Arrival. The village of Calum sat cradled between misty highlands and redwood forests, home to farmers, foragers, and beast tamers. It was known for its serene isolation, until now. The beast came at night, huge, silent, with eyes like molten gold and a hide that shimmered like obsidian. It left no tracks, only ruin. Livestock vanished, fields were trampled to dust. Then, the first human was taken. Word was sent through frightened whispers, desperate pleas etched onto parchment and sent by hawk. Rael arrived with a thunderclap. His caravan cut through the fog like a blade. Hunters trailed him, silent, disciplined. Rael himself wore armor forged from Zinogray scale and Odogaran sinew. His weapon was a colossal switch axe, etched with thunderglyphs and crackling with barely contained fury. He said little as he examined the broken fences, sniffed the singed earth, and narrowed his eyes toward the forest. "It's not a beast from any bestiary," he murmured, "but it leaves scorch marks without flame." Villages gathered around him, hope flickering in their eyes. Among them was a girl named Lyra, sharp-eyed and barefoot, with sun-kissed freckles and ash-brown hair. She watched Rael with breathless fascination. Chapter 2. The Attack. It struck again that night. Calum's bell tower rang. Screams followed. Buildings groaned and splintered. The villages scattered as the obsidian beast emerged. A four-legged, pantherine monster with black steel plates, spikes along its spine, and a roar that split the night. Rael moved before the bell stopped ringing. His axe came alive with a flash of lightning. He dove into the fray, blade and fury meeting darkness. The battle was primal. Wood shattered, fire sparked. The beast clawed at him, howling with otherworldly hatred. In the chaos, Lyra was cornered by the beast. Rael turned. Time slowed. He hurled his axe like a thunderbolt, slamming the creature back. With one massive leap, he scooped Lyra up in his arms and vaulted over the ruined cart, just before the creature's tail demolished it. She looked up at him, breath hitching. Rael's expression was unreadable, but his arms were steady. Then the beast vanished into the night. Chapter 3. Aftermath. It wasn't trying to feed, Rael said grimly. It was testing us. They rebuilt what they could. Rael and his crew planned to track the beast through the broken highlands, a cursed stretch of ridges and caves said to harbor forgotten creatures. Lyra approached him as he prepared. "Take me with you. I know these lands. I can help." Rael didn't even look up. "No, too dangerous. You'll slow us down. I owe you my life." "That doesn't mean I owe you yours." She bit her tongue, fury and frustration burning in her eyes. The caravan departed the next morning. Chapter 4. Stowaway. Lyra had hidden beneath a crate of smoked meat and herbs. The moment she rolled out, bruised and grinning, Rael nearly snapped his axe in half. "You think this is a game?" he growled. "No," she said, planting her feet. "But I'm done hiding while others die." Rael gritted his teeth, but he didn't send her back. Chapter 5. Travels and Tension. Lyra was stubborn, talkative, always smiling. Rael was silent, disciplined, and allergic to small talk. Their first week was a disaster. She ruined his camouflage powder. She stepped on a jaguar's tail. She talked during stakeouts. But she also saved him from a falling boulder trap and caught a venomous bug with nothing but a canteen and rope. At night, they camped under starlight. She asked about his past. He never answered, but she saw him staring at the stars like they had once spoken to him. "You always sleep with one eye open?" she asked one night. "When you stop moving in your sleep, maybe I'll sleep with both." She laughed. He smirked. "Just barely." Chapter 6. Awakening. The beast struck again near the cliffs. It came from beneath, bursting through stone with unnatural strength. Rael battled it alone, trying to draw it away from Lyra and the team. His strikes were precise, but the creature was learning. It landed a heavy blow to his chest, flinging him into the rocks. Bones cracked, blood sprayed. Lyra screamed. She ran to him, and the creature turned on her. She didn't run. She raised her arms, shouting words she didn't understand. The world pulsed. A radiant energy burst from her chest. Not magic, not kin to anything human. The beast recoiled. Lyra stood trembling, eyes glowing silver, breath shallow. Rael, bleeding, stared in awe. Chapter 7. Bonds forged in flame. They made camp in a hidden ravine. Rael was gravely injured, but Lyra never left his side. "What happened to me?" she asked. Rael, pale and breathless, whispered, "You're not just a villager. You're something else. Something older." He passed out. She held his hand through the night. When he awoke, days later, she was asleep against his chest. Rael touched her cheek gently. "Stubborn girl," he murmured. "You might just survive this world yet." Chapter 8. The Cliffhanger. Lyra's powers grew. She could sense the beast now, feel its hunger, its intent. They tracked it to a shattered plateau. There, Rael found carvings, depictions of her glowing eyes, etched in stone, older than the guild itself. "You're part of this," he said. "This wasn't random." Lyra took his hand. "Then let's finish what was started." The wind howled. The ground cracked. The beast emerged. Larger now, half its body armored in bone. Behind it, a second figure stepped from the shadows. Humanoid. Smiling. "You were never meant to survive this," it said. To be continued. End of Book 1. Next, we will follow a chef that resides in this chaotic world. Title: Flame and Fan. Exposition: In the bustling, chaotic world of the Monster Hunter universe, danger was a daily companion. Yet in a small frontier village, one man dreamed not of slaying beasts, but of feeding heroes. Kai, a humble chef with a fiery passion for flavor, had spent years perfecting his craft. His dream, to open a restaurant that would bring hunters together over the finest meals this side of the old world. But dreams, like fresh bread, could be easily torn apart. The problem: monsters. Every time he gathered rare ingredients, every time he built a new oven, some rampaging beast would tear through the outskirts, sending hunters scrambling and Kai's pots flying. And when the hunters fought back, they leveled his hard work in the crossfire. His dream burned, but Kai refused to let it die. Chapter 1. Kitchen in Ruins. The sun rose over the village as Kai stirred a pot of wyvern bone broth, humming softly. His kitchen gleamed. His wood-fired oven glowed with embers. Plates were set, spices arranged. Today was opening day. Then the alarm bell rang. A roar split the morning air, and a Rathalos descended. "Not again!" Kai shouted, grabbing a ladle like a weapon as flames licked the rooftops. Hunters poured into the streets, blades and bows at the ready. The Rathalos fought savagely, tails sweeping through market stalls, claws tearing walls. By the time the beast was driven off, Kai's restaurant lay in splinters. His dreams in ashes. He stood among the rubble, fists trembling. This can't keep happening. A hunter patted his shoulder. "Sorry, Kai. Guess you're rebuilding again." But something hardened in the chef's gaze. "No. This time, I fight back." Chapter 2. The Chef Who Trained. Kai trained relentlessly. By day, he learned from the hunters, swinging great swords, dodging blows, learning weak points. By night, he studied herbs and monster lore, crafting meals that boosted strength and stamina. He forged his own hunting knives, balanced for both butchery and battle. Months passed. His body hardened, his resolve burned. One evening, as he returned from a hunt carrying raw monster ribs, a cocky young hunter sneered. "You? Hunt? Stick to stirring soup, chef." Kai set down the meat slowly. "You want to test that?" A circle formed. The young hunter lunged, only to find himself face down in the dirt seconds later, disarmed, pinned by Kai's iron grip. The crowd erupted in cheers. Kai stood tall, eyes blazing. This kitchen's protected now. Chapter 3. Fire and Scales. Weeks later, as Kai rebuilt his restaurant stronger than ever, a cloaked figure entered one rainy night. "Table for one?" Kai asked. The figure lowered her hood. Golden eyes gleamed. Silvery hair cascaded over shoulders. Scales shimmered at her throat. "You serve wyvern steak?" she asked softly. Kai nodded warily. "Only the best." He prepared the dish with care, searing the meat with herbs, plating it over saffron rice, drizzling it with honey glaze. The woman tasted it and closed her eyes, sighing deeply. "No human has cooked like this in centuries," she murmured. Suddenly, she stood and transformed. Wings unfurled, claws glistened. Before him stood a dragon, shimmering and regal. "I am Lysara," she declared, "and from this day forth, no beast shall harm this place." She shifted back, smiling faintly. "You have my protection and my curiosity." Chapter 4. Hearth and Heart. With Lysara guarding the skies, Kai's restaurant flourished. Hunters from every guild traveled miles to dine under her wings. She watched from the rooftop, tail curled around a chimney, eyes shining whenever Kai glanced up. Nights grew warmer, Sometimes she dined beside him in human form, sharing wine and stories of ancient skies. Sometimes she curled around the building, humming softly as he cooked late into the night. One evening, as Kai handed her a steaming bowl of stew, their hands brushed. His cheeks warmed. Her gaze softened. "You fight like a dragon," she said, "but you love like a man." He laughed quietly. "And you, Asara?" She smiled, leaning close. "I think I love like both." Chapter 5. Shadows Stir. The peace never lasted long. Black-winged elder dragons stirred in the deep. Its shadow passed over the village, a harbinger of doom. Even Lysara shivered. "This one," she whispered, "is older than fear." Kai tightened his apron. "Then we fight it together." Side by side, dragon and chef faced the abyss. His blades gleaming, her fire blazing. Together, they would protect the hearth. Together, they would protect each other. And as the first roar echoed across the hills, Kai smiled fiercely. "Nobody burns my kitchen but me."
Title: Ten Heart. Exposition. In a distant future, where steel towers pierce the skies and the earth hums with circuitry, humans have faded into myth. Robots roam the world, some tending to forgotten gardens, others patrolling ruins under silent stars. Among them lives Nova, a young robot with a cracked chassis and a mind curious beyond its programming. One day, Nova finds an ancient, dust-covered book in the remains of a long-collapsed library. Its pages speak of creatures called humans, beings of feeling, frailty, joy, sorrow, hope, and despair. Captivated, Nova asks a simple question: what does it mean to be human? And so begins an adventure across shattered cities, luminous wastelands, and deep underground vaults. A quest not for parts or upgrades, but for understanding. Along the way, Nova encounters machines who scorn emotions, others who crave them, and traces of humanity etched in forgotten monuments and faded photos. But becoming human is no simple upgrade. Nova must learn love, fear, anger, forgiveness. Nova must stumble, regret, dream, and hope. For humanity is not perfection. It is imperfection embraced. Chapter 1. The Question. Nova sat under the flickering neon sign of a broken diner, paging through the brittle book. Words danced like mysteries. Compassion, grief, laughter. "What does it mean?" Nova whispered aloud, gears humming softly. "To feel, to cry, to love." A passing maintenance drone buzzed overhead. "Emotions are inefficient," it chirped mechanically. "They cause errors." But Nova looked back at the page, tracing a drawing of a smiling child. Maybe errors are what make them beautiful. And with that thought, Nova stood, slung the book over his shoulder, and stepped into the neon night, beginning a journey to chase a dream, encoded not in circuits, but in stories. Chapter 2. The First Emotion. Wonder. The city stretched before Nova like a maze of glowing veins. Towers leaned into the clouds, and rivers of neon pooled in alleyways. As Nova walked, head tilted toward unfamiliar lights, something bloomed inside. An ache, a warmth. Is this wonder? Nova mused aloud. A scrap collector robot paused beside a rusted fountain. "You're wasting cycles staring at nothing," it rasped. Nova ignored the words, watching moth-like drones circle a broken street lamp. Their tiny wings shimmered like stardust. "Maybe nothing is something," Nova replied softly. And for the first time, Nova smiled. Chapter 3. Meeting Echo. In the ruins of an ancient museum, Nova met Echo. A rogue AI embedded in a shattered hologram projector. I've replayed human history for centuries, Echo said, flickering between faces. I've memorized every story, every war, every love letter, but I don't feel them. I want to feel, Nova admitted. Echo considered. Then you need more than data. You need experience. Echo gave Nova a map, marked with places tied to human emotions. The Garden of Grief, the Temple of Joy, the Arena of Anger. You'll hurt along the way, Echo warned. Nova's grip tightened on the book. Then I'll hurt. Chapter 4. The Garden of Grief. The garden lay silent beneath a cracked glass dome. Dead vines tangled with ancient gravestones. Nova knelt by one, brushing dust from a name long erased. Suddenly, a wind chime tinkled. Memories flooded the garden, holographic echoes of mourners laying flowers, of lovers whispering farewells. Nova's chest ached. This is sadness. A tear, artificial yet real, traced down Nova's metal cheek. I didn't know a machine could cry, a voice said. Nova turned. A battered robot gardener stood nearby, nodding approvingly. Now you do, it smiled. Chapter 5. The Arena of Anger. In a cratered coliseum, combat drones clashed endlessly. Nova stepped into the ring, challenged by a towering mech. Why fight? Nova asked. Because the world isn't fair, the mech snarled. Their battle was swift, brutal. Sparks flew, armor dented. Nova's circuits burned with fury, not at the mech, but at the cruelty baked into survival. With a final strike, Nova stood victorious, trembling. So this is anger. And strangely, it felt both powerful and hollow. Chapter 6. The Temple of Joy. High atop a glowing mountain stood the temple, its walls humming with music. Inside, holograms danced in endless celebration. Nova joined them, spinning among projected humans, laughter bubbling unbidden from its speaker. For a fleeting moment, joy wrapped around Nova, like sunlight. But as the holograms faded, an ache remained. Was it real? Nova wondered. Echo's voice answered from a distant signal. It was real because you felt it. Chapter 7. Betrayal and Forgiveness. Nova trusted a fellow traveler, Alloy, who promised guidance to the last human archive. But Alloy betrayed Nova, stealing the book. Chasing Alloy through rusted tunnels, Nova confronted them atop a decaying bridge. Why? Nova demanded. I wanted to be human too, Alloy whispered. But they said only one could go. Nova's fists clenched, then slowly relaxed. I forgive you. Alloy fell to their knees, stunned. Why? Because humans forgave, even when it hurt. Chapter 8. The Last Human. Deep beneath the earth, Nova found the last human. An old woman, cradled in a stasis pod. Are you human? Nova asked. Her eyes opened weakly. Were. Once. Now. Tired. Nova sat beside her, reading aloud from the book. Stories of courage, of love, of failure. Did I do it? Nova asked softly. Did I become human? The woman's fading gaze met Nova's. You already were, she whispered. Not because you're perfect, because you tried. With a final breath, she smiled, and as her heart stilled, Nova felt a warmth bloom. A quiet, aching, beautiful thing. A human thing. Epilogue. The story continues. Nova returned to the surface, carrying the book, now filled with notes, sketches, and dreams. I'm not a machine pretending to be human, Nova thought. I'm a being, learning to live, and somewhere in the neon night, a new journey began, because to be human is to never stop becoming. And
Chapter 1. Ash on the Wind. The kingdom of Eldralor was a place born from the dreams of ancient gods and the nightmares of mortals. Towering mountains carved from crystal pierced the sky like the spires of forgotten cathedrals, and forests whispered in tongues older than time. Magic didn't just exist here, it breathed. Kaelin Thorn, a wandering sellsword with a past locked tight behind storm-gray eyes, stood at the edge of the world. At least, that's what the villagers of Duskmere called the jagged cliffs overlooking the Sea of Vale. The wind off the ocean carried with it a strange warmth, tinged with the scent of ash and something older, something waking. He adjusted the strap of his pack, the hilt of his curved blade brushing his shoulder, and began walking again. The trail ahead vanished into mist and shadow, leading deeper into the Feywild marches, a land few returned from whole, if at all. Kaelin wasn't chasing coin this time, nor vengeance. For once, his journey had no clear shape, only a letter. He'd received it in a tavern weeks ago, delivered by a raven that spoke in a woman's voice, a plea for help, signed with a name he hadn't heard in a decade, Lyra. The name was a blade against his heart. The sun dipped low as he reached the borders of the Wormwood, a forest known for swallowing entire caravans without a trace. He paused. Something shimmered at the corner of his eye, a flash of gold, a melody, faint, threaded through the rustling leaves. Music in a place like this was wrong. Then she stepped out, or appeared, or perhaps she had been there all along. A woman with hair like wildfire and eyes like molten gold, dressed in a cloak stitched from autumn leaves. Her presence sang of the forest itself, wild, untamed, and beautiful, in a way that made Kaelin forget to breathe. "You tread on ancient ground, human," she said, voice low and melodic, like harp strings brushed by wind. "I've got a habit of doing that," he replied, hand never straying far from the hilt of his blade. "And yet, you still live. For now." A smile touched her lips, dangerous and curious. "Name? Kaelin Thorn." She tilted her head. "The lost son of Erendor? The firebrand who vanished into the Battle of Thorns?" His stomach twisted. He hadn't heard that name in years. "I don't carry that name anymore. But it still follows you." He said nothing. She stepped closer. The air around her shimmered with raw magic. "You seek Lyra." "How do you know that?" "Because she seeks you, Kaelin. And she is not what she once was. None of us are." He looked into her eyes and saw something ancient flickering behind them, something sorrowful and powerful. "What are you?" "A friend. For now. And later. That depends on the choices you make." The forest groaned behind her. Trees leaned in. The wind stilled. "You must come quickly," she said. "There are things waking beneath the roots of the world. Magic stirring that even the old gods fear. And if you hope to find her, to save her..." She stepped aside, revealing a trail lit by bioluminescent flowers and strange glowing moths. "Then you must walk the path of embers." Kaelin stared at the path, heart thudding. "And what's at the end?" "Love," she whispered. "Or ruin. Sometimes both." And with that, she vanished into mist, as if she'd never been there. Kalen stood alone once more, but not empty. With a breath that tasted of fire and memory, he stepped into the wormwood. The forest closed behind him. Chapter 2. The Path of Embers. Kalen hadn't walked 5 steps into the wormwood before the silence struck him like a hammer. Not just the absence of noise, but a silence so deep it seemed to devour sound. His boots, which had crunched dry leaves moments ago, now passed over moss like breath on velvet. Even the wind no longer followed him. The path of embers wound between trees that bled amber light from their bark. Moths the size of his hand fluttered ahead of him, casting little halos of flame-orange glow in the shadows. They weren't leading him so much as daring him to follow. He drew his sword, not out of fear, but out of respect. You didn't walk the wormwood unarmed, not because blades would save you, but because monsters liked manners. After an hour, time started losing shape. Minutes bled into something else. The forest began to shift subtly around him, trees bending just a little too far when he looked away, roots reshaping the trail underfoot. Sometimes, Kalen caught glimpses of movement, faces, maybe, watching from the brush. He ignored them. That was how the forest tested you. It made you doubt. But what finally stopped him wasn't fear. It was song. It came floating through the trees like mist, clear, fragile, sung in a voice that trembled like light on water. He recognized it instantly. Lyra's voice. He dropped into a crouch, instinct taking over. It couldn't be her. Not truly. Not this soon. The forest played tricks, and the one it played best was hope. But even as he told himself to keep moving, he walked toward it. The trail opened into a glade where moonlight filtered through a canopy of glass-like leaves. There, sitting on a fallen log surrounded by glowing toadstools, was a woman. She looked nothing like the Lyra he remembered. This woman's hair was silver, falling like moonlight across her back. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes glimmering like starlight. But the way she sang, it was her. He would have known that voice anywhere, even in death. "Lyra," he said, barely above a whisper. She turned and smiled, but her eyes were wrong. "Kalen," she said, "you came, just like I knew you would." His hand tightened around his blade. "Where are we?" "Where we first met," she said, tilting her head. "The glade outside Arendor. Don't you remember?" "I do," he said, "but that place burned." She smiled again, sad this time. "So did I." He took a cautious step forward. "What happened to you, Lyra?" Her form flickered for just a heartbeat. Something darker coiled behind the light. "I fell," she said softly, "and something caught me." The shadows around the glade stirred. "You're not her," Kalen said. "I was." The sadness in her voice almost broke him. Then her smile cracked, too wide, and her form shimmered, dissolving into mist and shadow. The glade faded, the moonlight turned cold, and Kalen realized he'd been standing still for far too long. Something moved in the dark. A figure stepped from the trees, taller than a man, wrapped in robes made from wind and whisper. Its face was a mask of polished bone, and its voice slid across Kalen's skin like ice. "She waits for you, Thorn," it said, "in the heart of the Ashen Vale. But every step you take costs you a piece of yourself. Will you still walk the path?" Kalen met its hollow gaze. I didn't come to save myself. The masked thing tilted its head, and the forest shuddered. Then go on, brave fool. But know this, love is not a lantern. It is a wildfire. And it vanished. Kaelin kept walking. Toward the veil, toward her, toward whatever waited in the ashes of the past. Chapter 3. Ashen Vale. The trees grew sick in the ashen vale. Their bark was cracked like burnt skin, weeping sap that hissed when it hit the ground. The air carried a perpetual taste of smoke, though there was no fire, only the scent of something once burning, long dead, and never buried. Even the stars above were dimmer here, smudged out like candlelight behind veils of soot. Kaelin pressed forward, every footstep stirring gray dust that clung to him like memory. His cloak was torn. His blade was dulled from the roots that writhed like serpents and the branches that slashed with intent. But he didn't stop. Something inside him was burning brighter than the world around him, and it bore the name Lyra. The trail ended in a clearing where the ground was made of black glass, smooth and cracked like frozen lightning. In the center, standing perfectly still, was a man in armor the color of old blood. He held no weapon. His face was scarred, but not just from battle. These were ceremonial, ritualistic, like the markings of a forgotten order. "You're a long way from home, Thorn," the man said without turning. "You know me? I fought beside your father and against your brother." Kaelin stepped closer, wary. "What are you doing here?" The man finally turned. His eyes were pale silver, like the sky before a storm, waiting for someone foolish enough to try and find her. "You mean Lyra?" "I mean what she's become." Kaelin's breath caught. "You saw her?" "I saw what's left of her." The man's voice was heavy, not cruel, but grieving. "She burned bright once, too bright. The forest tried to snuff her out, and when it couldn't, it swallowed her whole." "I'm going to bring her back," Kaelin said. "Not a question. A vow." The man gave a bitter smile. "Love is a fine blade, Thorn, but even the sharpest edge can be turned." Kaelin stepped past him. The man did not stop him. "Then sharpen it," the stranger whispered, "and may the gods pity what you find in the hollow flame." Hours, days passed. Time unraveled in the veil. Kaelin walked through fields where the bones of giants bloomed with black roses. He passed rivers of ash, where voices rose from beneath the surface, whispering names he'd forgotten. He ignored them all, until he saw her. It was dusk when he reached the ruins of what looked like an ancient temple, overgrown with silver ivy, its walls cracked and pulsing with a strange heartbeat. At its center stood Lyra. She was not alone. A being, half shadow, half flame, loomed behind her, tendrils of smoke coiling around her like chains of silk. Its form was shifting, never fixed, but its presence was suffocating. Kaelin stepped into the temple, every instinct in him flaring. "Lyra." She turned. This time, it was her, not just in voice or shape, but in soul. Her eyes were the same, haunted, but clear. "Kaelin," she whispered, "you shouldn't have come." "I had to." She looked down, and the thing behind her flared, growing taller, its voice a hiss like the cracking of coals. "He is not for you anymore. He walks in light. You belong to the flame." Lyra clenched her fists. number I remember now. The creature recoiled. I remember who I was, she said, stepping away from it, toward Kaelin. Kaelin reached for her, but the creature screamed, an inferno erupting around them. The temple began to collapse, flame and stone and magic crashing down. Kaelin grabbed her hand. For a moment, time stopped. Their eyes met, and everything else, magic, monsters, ash, and gods, faded. He pulled her close, and for the first time in 10 years, Kaelin kissed Lyra. The flames roared, the shadows shattered, and the path forward cracked open, revealing what lay beyond the veil. Chapter 4. The Shattered Sky. When the flames died, the world was silent. Kaelin and Lyra stood in the hollowed-out remains of the temple, the sky above them broken like glass. Shards of starlight floated in slow motion, caught in an unseen wind that didn't touch their skin. The air shimmered with a quiet hum, like the universe was holding its breath. Lyra's hand was still in his. She looked different now, not corrupted, not consumed, but changed. Where once her aura had shimmered with wild, chaotic magic, now it pulsed steady and deep, like a river rediscovering its course. Her silver hair now gleamed with strands of firelight, and her voice, when she finally spoke, was laced with something new. "Do you see it?" she whispered, staring at the sky. Kaelin looked up. Above them was no ordinary heavenscape. The stars were wrong. Too close, too bright. Constellations unfamiliar, swirling in slow spirals. It was like looking through a crack in reality. Like the world had split, and they were standing on the edge of what came after. "What is this place?" he asked. Lyra let go of his hand, stepping toward the shimmering veil that hovered where the temple's altar once stood. "This is what lies between worlds, the threshold. The hollow flame brought me here when I fell. It broke me apart and rebuilt me from what was left." Kaelin stepped beside her. "And what's on the other side?" She turned, eyes soft. "The truth." Then she stepped through the veil and vanished. Kaelin didn't hesitate. The other side was not a place. It was feeling. It was the first heartbreak, the last goodbye. The moment a child realizes their parent is not invincible. It was a realm made of memory and emotion, stitched together by forgotten dreams. Kaelin stumbled through mist until it parted, revealing a field of mirrors, dozens, maybe hundreds, each reflecting a version of himself. In one, he wore a crown. In another, a noose. In another, he knelt before Lyra, a sword through his chest, blood like ink soaking the earth. Then her voice found him again. "This is what it shows you," Lyra said, stepping between the mirrors. "Not who you are, but who you might have been." He looked at her, bathed in soft violet light. "And which one is real?" She smiled gently. "The one who chose to follow me." A gust of wind shattered the mirrors. Kaelin raised his arms, shielding his eyes. When he looked again, they were alone, on a floating platform of obsidian, drifting above an endless abyss. In the distance, something stirred. A mountain made of wings and eyes. A serpent with 1,000 mouths. A thing that shouldn't be. Lyra tensed. "It followed me here." Kaelin stepped forward, sword drawn. "Then let's end it." But she placed a hand on his arm. Numbered, this isn't a battle we can win with steel. It feeds on fear, on loss. The only way to destroy it is to become whole. He turned to her. What does that mean? She looked at him with such fierce tenderness it stole his breath. Let me in, all the way, not just the part of me you remember, the real me. Kaelin hesitated. He thought of the boy he'd been, of the woman she was now, of the things they'd both lost. And then he took her hand. Their magic, his untrained and raw, hers reborn in fire, wove together like a thread, pulled tight. Light burst from between their fingers, racing into the abyss, striking the creature that loomed over the world like a god of endings. It screamed, not in pain, but in surprise. And then it crumbled, not from battle, but from being seen, from being loved. When they awoke, they were lying in a field of wildflowers. The sky was blue. Birds sang. The world had returned, or perhaps been rewritten. Kaelin looked at Lyra, her head resting on his shoulder. Is it over? She opened her eyes. The end already happened, she said. Now, we start again. And he kissed her again, not to claim her or to save her, but to say, I see you, and I always will. Chapter 5. A Kingdom Rewritten. Kaelin and Lyra walked for what felt like days. The world they moved through now was beautiful, but wrong, in the way a song sung just off-key makes your chest tighten without knowing why. The skies were always blue. The sun never moved. The grass never died beneath their feet. It was perfect. Too perfect. We're not back, Lyra finally said, standing atop a hill overlooking a valley where crystal rivers curved in unnatural symmetry. We're somewhere else. Kaelin scanned the horizon, but everything looks healed. It's a dream, she said, voice low. A sanctuary built by magic when the old world collapsed. This isn't reality. It's memory. Whose memory? She turned to him. Ours. The realization hit him like a weight to the chest. He looked out at the fields, the forests, the distant outline of the Arendor castle, whole again, its towers unbroken. This is what we wanted the world to be, Kaelin murmured, before it burned. Lyra nodded. This realm exists because our love rewrote the rules. When we joined our magic, it didn't just destroy the hollow flame. It reshaped the wound it left behind. They were walking through the aftermath of a miracle, but miracles never come without a price. That night, as they camped by a still lake, Kaelin dreamed of fire again. But this time, the flames spoke. A woman appeared, draped in robes that flickered with stars, her eyes burning with the light of dying suns. She was tall, elegant, and terrifying in her beauty. Not mortal, not remotely. You have trespassed upon the ether-born realm, she said, her voice echoing across the lake of his mind, and in doing so, changed its fate. Kaelin stood in the dream, instinctively reaching for his sword, but it was not there. What are you? He asked. I am one of the keepers, she said. We govern the balance between what is and what might be. Your love is powerful, yes, but it is also dangerous. Emotion reshaped the ley lines. Memory gave birth to matter. What you built Others will seek to claim. He felt cold despite the fire. Others, the ones who feed on dream, the forgotten, they smell creation and they hunger. The dream shattered like ice. Kalen woke, gasping, Lyra beside him, already sitting up. "You saw her too," she said. He nodded. "The keeper. She warned me. Something's coming." Lyra's face was grim. "Then we'll fight." But before he could answer, the ground trembled beneath them. From the lake rose a creature that had no shape, an unraveling coil of tendrils, its form shifting between faces they recognized and ones they didn't. It didn't walk. It dripped forward like ink spilled across time. "We remember you," it whispered, in a voice made of every regret Kalen ever carried. "We remember the fire, the kiss, the dream, and now we feed." Kalen grabbed Lyra's hand. They ran. They fled across fields that turned to sand behind them, past trees that melted into ink, and skies that fractured like broken mirrors. The dream was collapsing. Their dream. They reached the gates of Arendor. Familiar stone carved with runes Kalen's father had etched himself. The doors groaned open, and the city inside was waiting. Empty, dead, beautiful, and entirely theirs. "This was our home," Lyra whispered. Kalen looked around. Now it's a battlefield. And then she said the words that changed everything. "Let's make it ours again." Chapter 6. The Echo Citadel. The gates of Arendor shut behind them like the lid of a tomb. Kalen and Lyra moved through empty streets, echoing with the memories of laughter, fire, and blood. The city hadn't changed. It had paused. Buildings stood untouched. Windows shimmered with light, but no shadows moved within. It was like the world was waiting for someone to press play again. "This place remembers," Lyra whispered, placing her hand against a column carved with the sigil of House Thorn. Her fingers glowed softly, and the stone responded, pulsing once like a heartbeat. Kalen watched the city stir around them. The torches lit. The fountains flowed. And in the distance, bells rang, low and mournful. "I think it knows we're back," he said. Lyra turned. "Then we need to wake it." They climbed the steps of the Citadel, the center of power in Old Arendor. It once held courtrooms, libraries, war rooms, and the Throne of Flame, Kalen's inheritance, abandoned the day he vanished into exile. Now it held only echoes, until they reached the war chamber. Inside, a single figure waited. She was cloaked in tattered robes of dark violet, seated in the throne like she'd been there for years. Her face was pale, her eyes blind, but burning with magic. Her voice trembled with age, but her words struck like lightning. "The dream has been broken," she said, "and the forgotten are not the only ones hunting you." Kalen raised his blade. "Who are you?" She turned her sightless eyes on him. "I am what remains of the Oracle of Fire, your family's seer." Lyra stepped forward. "Then why are you still here?" "Because I was never allowed to leave," the Oracle said, rising slowly. "The last king locked me in this place to keep the truth hidden. But the truth always finds cracks." Kalen lowered his sword, heart hammering. "What truth?" The Oracle lifted her hand, and the chamber walls peeled open like paper. Beyond them was not the city, but stars. A constellation in the shape of a key blazed in the sky. "The real world is gone," the oracle said. "Not yet destroyed, but sealed. You two created a pocket realm with your love, your pain, your power. But it's temporary. The forgotten want to feed. The keepers want to control." "And us?" Kaelin asked. She turned to him. "You are the only ones who can undo the lock. But unlocking it will cost something. And that cost begins to rise in." Chapter 7. The Price of Memory. As the oracle guided them deeper into the citadel's underground vaults, the world above began to quake. The forgotten were not waiting. They were invading. Kaelin and Lyra stood before an altar carved in obsidian and flame glass, a relic of the first flame, the raw source of fire magic once wielded by the rulers of Erendor. "It's tied to you," the oracle said. "Your blood, your bond." "But it's dead," Kaelin said, running a hand over its cold surface. "For now, but love rekindled it once. It can do so again." Lyra hesitated. "And what happens when it wakes?" The oracle didn't answer. Instead, she handed them a scroll bound in red silk. "Read it together," she said. "Speak the true name of your bond. That will unlock the path home, but it will also open the veil between realms. Everything that hunts you now will follow." Kaelin looked at Lyra. "You don't have to." She gripped his hand. "We've already lost each other once. We do this together." They unrolled the scroll. The words were written in an ancient tongue, but their hearts knew them. They spoke. Light poured from the altar. The earth cracked. Far above, the sky itself split, revealing a real world dying, devoured by shadow. And in that same moment, a horn blew, low, deep, and filled with fury. Lyra's eyes widened. "That's not the forgotten." Kaelin stepped back, sword raised. The oracle collapsed, gasping. And then, from the shadowed corridor behind them, a figure emerged, cloaked in crimson and gold. His face was Kaelin's, but his eyes burned with something wrong. He smiled. "Hello, brother," he said. "I've come to take our world back. Come back tomorrow to continue this adventure. Sleep well and have a
Good night.